Winning Olympic gold at 20, she became the first Asian American woman to ever dominate a winter sport. For 30 years, the public believed they truly understood the woman Kristi Yamaguchi had become. They barely knew the surface. Now 54, Kristi is embracing a transformation she hasn't felt in decades. Her life has reset. A 23-year marriage ended, and her children have finally left home. That identity constructed so meticulously around her role as a wife, a mother, and champion is suddenly more expansive than ever before. For the first time in ages, she isn't skating toward a finish line set by others, she's finally mapping out a destination she truly wants to reach. That's the story we are uncovering today. Her story naturally circles back to the Games. When she tuned into the 2026 Winter Olympics, she wasn't there to chase medals. There was no glory to hunt. She stood as someone who profoundly grasps the immense price one pays to perform while the entire world watches. Every official, every single lens, every viewer holding their breath. Moments like those don't just evaluate your technical skating skills, they challenge the very essence of your soul. When Elisa Liu took the ice for her free skate to MacArthur Park Suite, Kristi felt a sudden, familiar stirring deep within her very soul. Recognition. The unspoken, deep connection that doesn't require a single word. Elisa arrived at those games bearing massive expectations as the world's current reigning figure skating champion. The projected winner. Every camera in that arena was fixated solely on her. Headlines were practically written before her blades ever made contact with the ice. That kind of weight doesn't just rest on you, it gets inside and alters your very rhythm of breathing. The rink feels smaller, and the silence between notes rings louder than the roar of any massive crowd. But Elisa didn't falter, she flourished in that light. Kristi observed her skating with what appeared to be total bliss and described that feeling to those watching. Finishing the games that way was inspiring, not merely from the viewpoint of a fan in the stands. Not just as a former gold medalist who once stood in that exact light, but as a woman who spent her life understanding the grit needed to perform under impossible pressure while making it look completely effortless to every single viewer. She's been tracking Elisa's progress since the girl was small. That internal fire was visible from her very first days. That elusive, almost magical quality where the competition doesn't feel like a struggle for survival anymore. It resembles pure freedom, as if they were engineered specifically for that high-stakes moment. Even in those early years, long before global titles and the Olympic stage, Kristi admitted she always watched Elisa with a wide, genuine smile. There was simply something different about her spirit. Seeing her maintain that vibrant energy on the world's largest stage and clinch gold left Kristi feeling a profound, deeply personal sense of pride. Genuinely and deeply moved. It wasn't just about the final placement or the high scores. It was about how Elisa carried herself throughout the entire journey from beginning to end. That sight triggered a rush of memories that Kristi hadn't completely expected to feel. Kristi knows that specific, visceral sensation by heart. She's lived within it, feeling that unique blend of fear and electricity found only during those Olympic minutes. She stated it clearly and with absolute certainty. Once an Olympian, you are always an Olympian. Representing your nation in that way, representing something far greater than yourself. Knowing this singular performance will define your legacy for a lifetime, regardless of the final score. Those profound feelings never actually leave you. They become a permanent, ingrained part of your identity and your very soul. They shape how you perceive every subsequent chapter, even though her own path was never straight. Back in 1990, Kristi entered the World Championships in Halifax, earning 4th in singles and 5th in pairs with her teammate, Rudy Galindo. Total heartbreak on the ice. This wasn't the narrative she envisioned. A crushing defeat that forces you to audit every midnight choice. Yet, she denied that crash the power to label her soul or break her. Instead, she made a choice that would silently pivot her entire professional future. Leaving pairs behind, she poured every ounce of herself into the solitary fire of singles. A year later, she was global queen. Then came Albertville, France, February 1992. 20 years old, center stage on Olympic ice, skating while the whole world watched. Against the odds, she won. She made history, becoming the first Asian American woman to claim gold. Such a pinnacle was never a lucky break. This wasn't merely fate favoring a lucky soul at the perfect hour. It was years of grit and sacrifice finally colliding with their ultimate destiny. She never stopped. World titles followed in 1994, 96, and 97. Entering the Hall of Fame in 2005, her legend was already absolute. Her impact was permanent, lighting the path for every Asian American athlete who dared dream. But while she cemented that prodigious sports legacy, she was secretly crafting a parallel mission of a totally different kind. In 1996, she launched Always Dream, a charity dedicated to sparking children's literacy. This wasn't some calculated branding play or an obligation. No public relations firm manufactured this. It was a true, soul-deep vocation, a mission she embraced with the same intensity she brought to those 4 a.m. practices. Then, Brett entered the frame. They met during the 1992 games, two elite competitors united by an unspoken bond regarding the true cost and weight of hunting greatness at the world's peak. Brett Hedican, an NHL veteran, became her husband in 2000. They built a home. They raised 2 daughters, Kara and Emma, now 22 and 20. For 23 years, they constructed a reality that appeared flawless. By all accounts, it was beautiful. A rich journey. A story overflowing with blessings. Then, with a soft honesty, it ended. Christy and Brett parted ways last year. No toxic blast, no resentment, nor the scandalous headlines that usually haunt a celebrity split. Just the painful clarity that surfaces when partners quit pretending and finally speak the truth. She labeled the entire transition as deeply respectful. She reflected on their union as a profound season that simply reached its conclusion. "We shared a magnificent partnership," she noted, "a house filled with love." Yet, amid decades of history, they both faced a reality that could no longer be ignored. Authentic joy for both lay in the difficult act of releasing their hold. Admitting that after 23 years requires a level of bravery few truly understand. Clinging to the familiar is easy, but venturing into the unknown to rebuild is terrifying. Christy embraced the uphill path, navigating it with total poise and zero excuses. She insists there are zero regrets, none. She cherishes the past and their daughters with a tender heart devoid of any malice. Then, with unwavering grace, she shifted her gaze toward the horizon. "Much of life remains," she declared. Currently, her daughters are away at university. Her residence feels far more silent than it has in many decades. Long-held identities, loyal spouse, tireless parent, household anchor no longer demand her constant presence. In that open air, a fresh version of herself is slowly, truly beginning. A quiet, radiant glow emanates from her whenever the conversation shifts toward the young women she raised. She treasures those toddler years, clutching every tiny victory and developmental leap close to her heart. Those mundane daybreaks seemed trivial then, yet they have transformed into her most cherished internal gallery. Fast forward to today, her girls are forging independent paths, manifesting their own ambitions and echoing the resilience she demonstrated for 2 decades. It is a mixture of soul-stirring completion and poignant longing. She keeps her assessment raw and honest. Yet, she refuses to remain a passive observer on the sidelines of her own existence. A new chapter beckons, perhaps involving romance or forging deep, fresh bonds with others in the world. She is finally venturing into a landscape of selfhood that remained dormant while she prioritized everyone else's needs. There is no frantic race towards some invisible finish line this time around. Without a script to follow or an audience to please, she is simply existing in the beautiful, unburdened now. This overlooked narrative belongs to the legend known as Christy Yamaguchi, though few ever hear it. The world remains fixated on that shimmering golden prize from her youth. Everyone recalls that historic triumph at age 20, a crowning achievement that still resonates throughout the entire skating community. Those accolades are undoubtedly earned and should forever be hailed as remarkable feats of human spirit. But watching this woman at 54 embrace the terrifying mystery of a blank slate requires massive intestinal fortitude. This specific brand of bravery is fundamentally different from anything she ever faced in the spotlight. It is not the steely focus required to execute a perfect triple jump under immense pressure. It is the profound gutsiness needed to claim one's own life as their own. Having mastered the frozen stage, Christy is now revealing the authentic soul behind the world-class Olympic champion. Honestly, this current evolution might just be the most stunning display of her entire existence.